is essential in today's society. It is virtually impossible to succeed in school or career without proficiency in reading. Sadly, many youngsters fail to learn how to read and fall ever further behind in their education. Regardless of bravado, all children want to read, and they secretly suffer at not being able to.
I don't care how big they are, how many tattoos they've got, how many piercings, how tough they look. They want to learn to read. Every one of their kids, they can't read. And inside them, no matter how big, no matter how tough, inside them, they've got this secret, and it's a bad secret, and it's a horrible secret, and it says I'm stupid and I can't read, and everybody's just waiting to make fun of me, and I'm a failure.
The Great Leaps Reading Intervention Program helps frustrated and struggling students attain reading independence and fluency. Program 1 in this issue of the Video Journal of Education introduces Great Leaps Reading and presents the need for intervention, the history, and the methodology by which it functions. In Program 2, Great Leaps phonics, phrases, stories, and classroom application will be further explored.
I like Great Leaps because it helped me read a lot better, and I've been going to Great Leaps since last year, and it's been helping me a lot. I feel great with Great Leaps, and when we do the phrases and phonics, it just helps me read better.
At a time when so many students struggle with the basics of reading, Great Leaps is a simple and effective intervention that will help youngsters in achieving great leaps in reading. In every school, there is a need for intervention. When students cannot read, they often misbehave, further establishing the need for reading intervention.
You have to be positive, you have to be warm, you have to be committed in your heart, realizing your mission. Your mission here is to help children read, and understanding that if you can teach children to read, you can change their life.
As students learn to read, their behavior greatly improves.
Reading is the key for everything. If you can't succeed, and you know you're going to get some attention, you tend to act out and get attention in ways other than letting everybody know that you can't read the book.
Kids have been failing forever. So they not only have they learned to fail, they've learned how to handle that emotionally.
Quite frankly, we're in a crisis here.
As a teacher of students with learning disabilities, Ken Campbell developed the Great Leaps Reading Intervention Program for all students after traditional methods did not work.
If you do not take a child to the independent reading level and you stop instruction in reading, they fall.
The objective of Great Leaps Reading is to coach the student to become an independent reader, a phenomenon that usually occurs near the 4th grade level of reading. With effort, students of any age can be worked with to reach that 4th grade level of independence.
Reading is an arduous, difficult task. It may be one of the most difficult tasks we have to teach.
Dr. Cecil D. Mercer of the University of Florida, Gainesville, has given assistance and support to Ken Campbell in the development of the Great Leaps Reading Program that is highly motivational to struggling readers. Dr. Mercer defines reading fluency at 130 to 150 words per minute at about the 4th grade reading level, complete with proper inflection and comprehension.
It is rapid reading that is accurate with prosody. And prosody basically is the word they use in the whole language, means with expression. So reading rapidly, accurately with expression.
Without fluency and prosody, there is no comprehension, since the reader spends all their energy decoding. Hence, an important intervention for developing comprehension is to develop fluency.
Without the fluency, it's very difficult to comprehend. But while they're building fluency, it is difficult for them to comprehend until they get to a certain rate.
Rate, that's how fast we read. That's why we do this with a clock. We're not trying to create speed racing readers. I need to know how many words a minute they're reading. And inflection, that's how it sounds. If it's fast enough and if it sounds right, guess what? Chances are you're on your way to understanding it.
For comprehension in more difficult text, it is imperative that students have a level of experience with the material. One of the primary objectives of Great Leaps is to help students achieve rate, inflection, and comprehension, which results in reading fluency.
I can read to you quite dandily from a physics text and not understand a word of what I just read. It'll sound good, but I do not have the background, the vocabulary, and the necessities of comprehension.
This is reading tutor Francine DeFalco.
Hello, Mr. Falco.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm doing good.
Good. Have a good day?
Yes.
Good.
During this Great Leaps session at Howard Middle School in Ocala, Florida, Mrs. DeFalco models for her student how reading relates to spoken speech.
I would if I could. I would if I could, but I can't, she said, with a hint of a smile on her face. Of a hint of a smile on her face. You wouldn't if you could even, and you didn't have. He didn't.
All right, stop for a second. Let's start from the beginning. Let me read that for you, okay? We're just going to take a minute and learn, because this is hard. Follow along. Okay. I would if I could, but I can't, she said, with a hint of a smile on her face. You wouldn't if you could have, and you didn't, he responded, with a hint of a growl in his voice. Why don't you lighten up a bit, she returned. You've got to know I'm just kidding. This is conversation. That's why I said read slow and try again. Begin.
Okay. I would if I could. I would if I could, but I can't, she said with a hint of a smile on her face.
Good.
You wouldn't if you could have, and you didn't, he responded with a hint of a growl in his voice.
Very good. Wasn't that good now? See, you did very good. Listening skills, okay? That's the best way to learn. Just read it the way you heard it, and you did great.
This becomes the fluency piece, the practice piece, and also the bridge into literature.
They're learning how to read, and they're feeling more confident. They're coming back to my class after a session with Great Leaps, and they just feel that, I think they feel that they can be successful in school.
While a middle school teacher in Ocala, Ken Campbell created the Great Leaps program to help struggling readers.
I was a learning disabilities teacher after having been a behavior disorders teacher for the last 20 years.
With a background in diagnostic teaching, Ken wrote the stories, collected the phonics, and organized the phrases to assist his students who are reading at the first grade level or below. The challenge was helping each student individually every day.
I had to maintain behavior. I also knew reading for adolescents is a one-on-one proposition. I knew behavior. My students would not share their weaknesses with the world for anything.
When I began with Great Leaps reading program, I was Ken's teacher's assistant in the classroom. And we decided to try tutoring the students one at a time. It was Ken's idea to promote each student on an individual basis to teach them to learn to read.
What I was able to do was write how I knew my teaching could happen so my aide could turn into me, so that I could begin teaching these students to read in a one-on-one way. So I wrote the materials, I put decisions into the materials. So she didn't have a master's in reading or anything. So she could, in effect, be me.
Okay, page 21.
With the Great Leaps method well defined and published, and with decisions built into the materials, they discovered that teachers' assistants, paraprofessionals, volunteers, even grandparents and parents could effectively administer the daily practice.
The trainings were really simple. I really feel that I could have any volunteer or parent or older student even teach it.
Immediately we saw the effectiveness. Children who at 6th grade were reading on 2nd grade level would go to this program for 5 minutes a day, and we used a pull-out, which meant they came out of class, went to the teacher in a pull-out mode, stayed for less than 5 minutes, went back to class, carefully charted their progress, because that's the key. You want to chart every day, you know, speed and accuracy. Saw what a wonderful program it was.
From its beginning, Great Leaps began to have an impact in other parts of Florida, the Southeast, and in diverse areas throughout the United States and Canada.
I had my students go out and tutor with it. And I sent them to schools all around Alachua County. And they came back and I saw progress. You know, it was maybe 6 weeks of instruction. I saw their fluency increase 30–40%. Some kids' grade levels jumped up. And with the high school students, I was just struck. We saw children jump in 2 and 3 grade levels.